Hi everyone, I'm Miss Venice.
And I'm Laura.
And I'm Robin.
And today we are going to do a tutorial on our 3 October crafts. They are all felt crafts. We've got a maple leaf for the children, a pumpkin for the teens, and an oak leaf for the adults. We're going to start off by showing you the children's craft first. So if you don't have a children's craft, you can go ahead and skip to the next section, which will be the teen craft, or the very final section, which is the adult craft. All right, let's get started with the children's craft.
All right.
We each have a children's craft bag. And inside our bag, there will be 4 leaves. They should be 4 maple leaves. Just like this. You should have 2 brown strings of yarn and a plastic yarn needle. All right, let's get started on lacing one of the maple leaves together. Well, 2 of them together. So grab 2 leaves and line them up. And the way you know that they're perfectly lined up is if the stem is going the same way. For the children's craft, there are pre-holes for the kids to follow. So also make sure that your holes are lined up. Be able to see through the holes.
All right.
You guys have your holes lined up?
I do.
Perfect. Next, we're gonna take, awesome. Next, we're gonna take a piece of string and we're gonna thread it through the eye of the needle. An eye of a needle is the hole and the other end of the sharp end. These aren't very sharp because they're yarn needles, but still, just be careful. And you're gonna put that string right through. The way I do it is I use my nail a little bit, but you can also ask a grown-up to help you. I'm gonna pull it so there's about 7 to 8 inches on one side, and then the other side will have the really long piece.
Okay.
Have we all thread our needle? Perfect.
Yes. Ready to go.
There should be a hole right here, right next to the stem.
Okay.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our needle and we're gonna put it right through that hole. Just like this, and we're gonna keep pulling until there's about, I would say, 5 or 6 inches hanging out.
Uh-oh, I pulled mine all the way through. What do I do?
Oh no! You can go right ahead and do it again. This time, making sure you don't pull all the way through.
Should I stop?
Yep, perfect. Now, there's another hole right here, and this is almost like connect the dots. So the next hole right next to it, a little bit to the right, you're gonna put the needle back in, and then it will look like there's a small line, just like that.
Oh, cool.
I got a line.
Yay! Now, this time you won't be able to see the line because it's on the other side, but the hole right there, we're gonna come right through it. Oops. Make sure you get both of the leaves. Like that.
Okay.
And we're gonna keep going in and out around the perimeter of the leaf.
Okay. And we're just going to do that until we get to the other side?
Yes. So in, out, in, out. And make sure each time you do it that you pull the string all the way through so you don't get a big loop.
I lost my needle.
Oh no, Well, you can go ahead and thread your needle again.
Thank goodness.
All right. And my string is getting really close to the holes, the tail. Should I just pull the tail through the needle a little bit more?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. How are you guys doing?
I think it's
We're
going
not
pretty
as fast as you, Miss Denise. We're going okay.
well. All right. I'm all done.
Awesome. So once you get to the last hole, as you can see, there's no more holes that are just left empty or blank. You can just slide the needle right off.
Okay.
And now you should have 2 strings just kind of hanging like this.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to tie this in a bow.
Okay.
You may want a grown-up to help you with this. You can also, if you would like to, put some beads on it to make it a little bit more decorative.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right, let me see.
I tied mine in a bow.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Thank you. How are you guys doing with your bows?
I'm working.
I
on it.
have a bow. One side is much longer than the other, so I'm going to take my scissors, give it a little trim.
Yes, absolutely. That's a
that's a
great
good idea.
idea, Laura.
All right. Here's
Now-
mine.
We all have a maple leaf that was laced with this beautiful brown yarn. And for the kids craft, we included 2 sets of maple leaves. So you can bring one to the library upstairs at the reference desk and we'll hang it right up somewhere in the library. You can even put your initials on the back side of the leaf so we know who did it. But that is how you do the children's maple leaf craft.
Yay, thank you, Miss Minnie.
You're welcome.
Okay, so for our next craft, we are going to make a felt pumpkin using a whip stitch. And this will be the craft that you'll choose if you are a teen volunteer in grades 6 through 12. And if that is the case, you can get an hour of volunteer credit for creating this craft and bringing it back to the library.
Yay.
So we'll turn it over to Miss Denise, who will show us how to do our whip stitch.
All right, so we all have our teen bag right here. And
Mhm.
inside the teen bag, you're gonna notice first off, there is a bunch of white, what we call batting, but it's like fluffy stuffing. But when I call it batting, this is what I mean by batting. This is white fluffy stuff. You'll also find 4 pumpkins, but in the pumpkins is going to be a needle, so be careful. I'm gonna find 2 pieces of yarn and 1 popsicle stick. And on this popsicle stick, there are 2 strands of thread on it. What we're gonna do first and foremost is we are going to take our pumpkins. Everyone got their pumpkins?
Yes.
We're gonna carefully remove the needle if you haven't already. Set that aside. We're going to take 2 pumpkins and line them up. And the way you know the pumpkins are lined up is, once again, the stem will be facing the same way. So this is the right way. If they were, yes, if they were lined up the wrong way, you would see a V. You just want to see one straight line at the stem. Perfect.
Okay.
Next, we're going to thread our needle. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take the popsicle stick and just unwind 1 strand of thread, just like this.
It is very long.
Okay. We're just going to use 1 thread for one of the pumpkins, right?
Yes.
Okay. The other one's for the other pumpkin.
So before we thread our needle, take one end. Do we all have one end?
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to triple knot it. And the way we triple knot it is you make one knot, just like this. And then you go ahead one more time. And you can kind of see how this knot is going right over the first knot. That's a double knot. We're going to do it 3 times to make a triple knot. Perfect. So I've got my triple knot right there.
Oh.
How are you guys doing on your triple knots?
I think pretty good. That was a good knotting.
Double so far. Okay.
All right.
Now I have my knot right here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys can see. This is brown thread.
Yeah.
And this is my end up here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clip this about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch away from the knot. So now my knot is right near the end of my thread. Perfect. We're gonna take the thread and we're gonna go all the way to the other end.
Okay.
This is the trickiest part. All right, we're gonna thread our needle with the end of the thread that is not knotted by putting the end through the eye of the needle, just like this.
Okay. Got it.
I have a tricky one. So you know what helps sometimes too? Giving it a nice clean edge by cutting it. And we'll see if I can get it one more time. I'm gonna hold mine a little bit closer so you guys won't be able to see, but it'll be easier for me to thread it.
Yeah. And sometimes getting it a little bit wet helps too. You got yours, Laura?
Got it.
Nice.
Perfect.
Worked out this time.
Nice.
Eureka. All right, so we're gonna pull it until there's probably, you can actually pull it until there's a good like 10 inches if you would like to.
Okay.
So it's less for you to have to pull through the pumpkin.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of string this time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we
All
got
right.
our needles.
Yes.
We have our pumpkins.
I'm ready.
All right.
All right.
I'm gonna go a little bit backwards so you guys can see what I'm doing. But you're gonna poke a hole about 1/4 of an inch deep right next to the stem with your needle. Do you guys see how I'm doing that? I'm pulling it towards me, but you guys can do it the opposite way and pull it away from you. So this is what the back end of your pumpkin should look like. You're gonna keep pulling that thread all the way until the knot stops you.
Okay.
Now the needle now is facing me, the string. I'm going to flip this around to the right way. So it's facing out. I'm gonna pull it towards me now and poke another hole on the opposite side. You see how my needle's coming through? And pull it out. So the best way for me to show everyone is to actually go this way. I'm gonna keep sorry, my finger was in the way. So basically, the rhythm of the whip stitch is over, through, pull, over, through, pull, over, through, pull. And you're gonna wanna make your stitches about, I would say, 1/4 of an inch apart.
Okay.
So I'm going over, through with my needle, and I'm pulling the string. And this might happen, you see how they kind of made a little bit of a V? Take your needle, just gently grab that thread and then pull it again. You can always reposition the strings by using your needle. But how you doing, Laura? You getting the hang of the
Doing
over?
okay. Yeah. I think so. Here, let me. Uh-oh, I got a V.
Okay.
So this is gonna take us a little bit longer
Yeah.
than the lacing craft if you watch the lacing craft. But
Let's into it.
We could speed it up since this is a video.
That's true.
okay, so we've been going along doing our whip stitch and I got a knot in my embroidery thread. This
Oh,
happens
dear.
a lot with embroidery thread, and you'll know you have a knot because when you pull it, you can't pull the rest of the thread through. To unknot embroidery thread, you have to take your needle and gently guide the embroidery thread out of its knot. This takes a lot of patience, just like threading the needle. But you can do it.
Yeah, that knot looks scary.
I have to do it against a table, so I had to pull it down. But once you get it unknotted, as you can see, I'm close to getting the knot out with my needle.
Very impressive.
There it goes. And then you can
Nice.
pull it through.
Wow.
And we're gonna go ahead and we are gonna keep whip stitching. But don't forget, it is going over through the same side you've been going through, and then pull over to the same side, through, and pull. All right, let's see who can finish first.
Uh-huh.
Was it a competition now?
I call last place.
All right, has everyone got their pumpkins whip
Yeah.
stitched all the way to kind of,
They're
I would say
Whipped up.
3/4 up the side of the pumpkin. Perfect. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take one of these pieces of batting, which is this white. We're gonna open this up right here, and we're going to push the batting in with our fingers. Perfect.
All right. Just gonna fill it right up.
And you can use as much or as little batting as you would like. But just remember, the more batting you use, the harder it is to close up the pumpkin when we finish our whip stitch around the final portion of our pumpkin. All right, we have our batting in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Laura's getting there.
getting there. Bringing up
Once
the
we-
rear. All right.
And this
Okay.
whole time, your thread is still hanging from here. All right, grab your thread and go ahead and start stitching once again. And this time we're going to stitch all the way around to the other side of the stem. Once you get to the other end of the stem, we're going to do what we call a running stitch to make sure none of the batting gets out through the stem part. And I will show you how to do that. We all there. We got Laura. Oh, all set?
All set.
Robin, all
Yeah.
set?
Mhm.
All right. Instead of going over and through like we did with our whip stitch, we're gonna go back in the same side we just came out, kind of towards the middle of the stem. And this is called a running stitch when you go in, out, in, out, in, out. So the back side kind of looks like this. We're gonna do it one more time. Until we're close to the knot on the other side. Do you guys remember that knot on the other side?
Yeah.
Where we started?
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's my running stitch.
Perfect.
Awesome.
It's like it
Now
has two
on the
little-
back side.
Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect. And turn it around to the other side where the knot and the thread is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see my one little tiny running stitch right there?
Mm-hmm.
Watch this. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to kind of pull it through like I was making a knot. That's a little bit complicated. And we're going to do it one more time to make sure we have a good knot. So I'm pulling my needle through, I don't know if you guys can see this, through the stitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to go ahead and trim it.
Okay.
So now you have two little stringies hanging out the back side of your pumpkin, which is fine. It's the back side.
Yay.
We can cover up those stringies by using a piece of yarn. Grab a brown piece of yarn.
Okay.
And tie it right around the stem. Make a little bow. Ta-da!
So cute. Oh, my bow is going to be super tiny.
Yeah. It's kind of tough to tie when it's this tiny.
Yeah. There we go. Yay!
Oh, it is a little tiny baby
It's super
bow.
tiny, isn't it? But this
And-
is so cute.
As Laura said at the beginning of the pumpkin tutorial, if you guys make one for the library, you get 1 hour of community service. Just bring it in to the reference desk upstairs. You can also put your initials on the back, and we're going to hang it up in the library.
All right, so now we are going to do the adult craft. This one is an oak leaf and it requires a blanket stitch.
Absolutely. So first, let's get out all of our supplies from our craft kit. First, it's going to be a bunch of white fluff, which we call batting. You should have 4 oak leaves. Ooh, my piece of yarn is stuck to my oak leaves. And in the oak leaves, we've supplied a tapestry needle. And then you should also have a popsicle stick with embroidery floss.
There it is with the yarn.
Oh yes, and 2 pieces of yarn to make pretty little bows at the end. So we're gonna do a blanket stitch, which is a little bit more difficult than the whip stitch or the back stitch that we had done for the teen craft. And I kind of want to give you a quick tutorial on the blanket stitch just using a flat piece of felt, since the oak leaves don't really have any straight edges. I want you guys to see what a blanket stitch looks like on a straight edge, if you don't mind, really quick.
That would be really helpful. Yeah.
All right. So with the blanket stitch, I'm going to put my needle through. I'm actually going to put it through almost the same exact hole if I can. And then pulling it through almost the same hole. But this time I like to catch mine with my finger. Do you see how I'm catching the loop with my finger?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to dive right into that loop. And I should have used a smaller piece of string. And that's the start of the blanket stitch. But then we're going to move over about, I like a 1/2 inch blanket stitch. So that's about, ignore this string. That's about this far over.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stab it through again. I catch the thread. Do you see how I'm pinching this? Catch the thread with my finger. I have a loop now. Do you guys see that loop?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna dive right in through it. Oop, don't grab the rest of the felt. So I'll show you a few stitches. The basic movements of a blanket stitch is I'm going to stab through the felt. I'm going to make sure that there's a loop appearing, and I make sure with my fingers. And then I'm gonna take this and dive right in through. So it's kind of like, I don't want to keep saying stab, but go through the fabric, loop, dive,
Okay.
pull. Yeah.
Great.
So first we're going to take our embroidery floss and unwind one strand. We're going to take one end of our embroidery floss and we're going to triple knot it.
Okay.
1, and if the knot seems a little bit further away than the actual loop, you can just scooch it down towards the knot. See? Scooch. And then pull.
Helpful tip. All right.
And we should do it 3 times for a triple knot.
3 times. All right. Gotta keep it secure.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm finding the other end that is not knotted. And I'm going to go ahead and thread the string through the eye of the needle.
Okay.
And the eye is the hole. I always have a little bit of a difficult time with this. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to clip my thread at an angle, just a little bit off to give it a clean edge, to try to get it through that very skinny hole. Are you guys ready to start the blanket stitch on the oak leaf?
Yes.
I sure hope so.
Ready to
All
knit.
right. So grab 2 oak leaves. You should have 4. And line them up so that the stems are facing the right way and one is lying exactly on top of the other.
Okay.
Just like that. We're going to start our blanket stitch on one of the sides of the stem. But this time we're going to kind of open it up just a little bit.
Okay.
And we're going to start. Oh, I lost my needle. 1 second. I retrieved it. We're going to start in the inside. So that means with my 2 leaves being open, I'm going to go ahead and puncture the one side of the leaf. So that way we're sandwiching the knot in the inside of the 2 leaves. And I'll show you what that looks like.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to make sure that knot is right in between.
Okay. And about how far in should we put this stitch?
About 1/4 of an inch
1/4 inch? Okay.
deep. I'm going to, you guys don't have to flip your leaves around, but I'm going to flip it around so you can see. how there's nothing on the other side. I'm gonna go ahead and put my needle right in to the approximate area where I had put the knot. So this is the blank side of the leaves right now. Do you see how I'm pushing my needle right through where the string is coming out the other side? So go ahead, and now this one should go through both of the leaves.
Okay.
Pull it tight. And it should almost look like the beginning of a whip stitch.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So I'm catching it with my finger?
Not just yet. This one you can pull all the way through.
Or not yet? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The first stitch, we're just gonna kind of make sure it goes all the way tight. And now the second stitch, which is going to be about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch away from the first stitch, we're going to go right ahead and I'm going to stab it through. You're going to see my needle coming right through about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to stab through both of the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, as you can see with my thumb, as I gradually pull my thread all the way through, and there's a lot of thread in the beginning, but we're going to need all this thread. I'm going to catch it with my thumb to make that loop.
Okay.
So I have a loop now. I made sure I caught it. And I'm going to dive right through. Here we go. And now the oak leaf's a little tricky. When you pull, you have to make sure you're not getting different portions of the oak leaf. You just want a nice clean pull like that.
Okay. So there's like a little, it's not quite across the top this time. There's like a little diagonal thing. Does that look right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
You can always just push that up a little bit
Okay.
with your thread like this. That's how I got mine to go across.
Oh, okay.
How do you do?
As I eased it up a little bit using my needle.
Okay. Cool.
All right. We're going to go ahead between the halfway point between our last stitch and this point on our oak leaf, and we are going to stab through again.
Great.
Making sure that we have a loop. Got a little bit of a knot. That's okay. I'm just going to work through it with my needle because there is a lot of thread in the beginning of this craft.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice it gets easier and easier as you get through the oak leaf because not only will you have you'll have less thread on your string, you'll also kind of get that muscle memory for doing the blanket stitch. All right, I'm gonna dive through. And now we have 3 stitches.
Yay!
Only about 100 more to go. All right, so I got this far on my leaf so far. I'm gonna wait for Robin and Laura to kind of get to this point. But while I'm waiting, I'm gonna show you that back stitch. I went ahead and I knotted my thread. I'm gonna go and show you on my example sheet of felt. A back stitch is where you just kind of go forward, in and out the same side, just like if you were gonna sew something. I'm gonna come the other way. And now I'm gonna go through that same hole that was in my last stitch. So it makes a solid line. And I'm gonna go ahead. And this time I'm gonna stab way forward. And I'm gonna go back through that other hole. And it kind of makes a solid line. Back stitch is a little bit simpler than a blanket stitch, but it will also give you very satisfying results if you decide you want to do this. The back side of a back stitch is really messy, but the front side looks very clean and precise. And the nice thing about a back stitch is you can kind of do, depending on how tight you make your back stitch, which I mean how far apart your stitches are, you can kind of do a curve. So people use back stitches when they want to embroider names because you can really do the curves of the letter quite easily. As you can see, just by doing this quick back stitch, I already did kind of a curve. So if you wanted to do your leaves with a back stitch, you could also try that as well. But we're going to continue on with our blanket stitch. Let me get my leaf out and keep going. I'm almost to the point where I'm going to want to start stuffing this leaf, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a trick.
All right. So when should we start stuffing the leaf? Where should we be? Because I'm right here.
You can do one more little arm of the leaf. Yes.
Okay, great.
I am very behind as usual, so I'm
That's quite all
continuing
right.
my stitch.
That's okay.
Thanks, guys.
It's a marathon, you know.
Actually, while you guys are doing your blanket stitches around your leaves, I'm going to show you some crafts that you can use in the stitches. So this is my little Frankenstein monster.
That's so cool.
So cute.
Oh my gosh.
And the blanket stitch is around his arms and around his whole body for the
oh my
edges.
goodness. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Make us one. Make us one.
As you can see, the stitches are hard, but on his little metal rods, I used a back stitch. This right here is a whip stitch that we showed in the teen craft. And then this one right here is just kind of random stitches that you can put on your creations to give them a little bit more personality. There's lots of different fun patterns like this online too that you can do. So it's really fun to do different embroidery stitches.
Yeah. I didn't know there were so many like different ways that you could finish off a piece like that.
Oh, absolutely. So, and even with the Frankenstein, I did a cross stitch. I don't know if you guys can see that on the back, how it looks like little X's.
Oh, yeah.
So
Makes it look
there are
very
multiple
authentic.
stitches.
His little tunic.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
multiple stitches in my little Frankenstein monster. And in fact, I did just a plain old running stitch for his, to get his pants and shirt together.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
All right,
Nice.
how are you
That is
guys
very
doing?
impressive.
So impressive. I am halfway done with the second to last arm. So should I get to like here and then we'll work on putting some stuff in?
Yes, the batting, absolutely.
Okay, great.
The other thing you'll notice on my felt creations is that I used beads.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go ahead and add beads to any of your felt creations as long as they have a big enough hole for a tapestry needle.
Okay. How do you attach those? What stitch?
I just went ahead. These beads have, let me see if I can do it through Frankenstein's eye. These beads have a hole that, oh, yep, I can. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yeah.
Have a hole. So basically I just went up through the fabric. I added a bead, and actually let me go grab a bead. I'll show you.
Okay. That's something cool that you can do to jazz up this sort of project. For sure. How's it going, Laura?
It's still going, guys. It's still going.
The
Good.
fun part of being a children's librarian is I always have beads close by. So I have a pony bead. This one has a very large hole. So I
Okay.
went up through the fabric. I'm gonna take my needle through the pony bead, slide the bead right down. I'm gonna go back down through my fabric as if you were sewing a button. You can also use buttons on your felt creations too. And that's how you kind of attach a bead.
Oh, cool. Very cool. There's a lot you can do.
Well, Robin is
I am
finishing up that last line on her blanket stitch. You're going to want to get your batting. We gave you enough batting for 2 leaves. So break it in half and take 1 fluff. And you're going to want to keep breaking this up a little bit more. So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of arms of the leaf, and then there's a body. I'm going to break this up into 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, I just finished my 4th like arm. So I'm gonna break up my batting. And about how much fluff do you think we should put into each of the arms?
Well, I broke mine into 6. If you want a really fluffy one, you can break it up into the 1/2 of the chunk of fluff into 6. But if
Okay.
you want a more flatter profile, you would probably do about, I would say, a cotton ball size.
Okay.
Cotton balls are denser, but I don't know.
Same shape.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's about what I have.
Perfect. Take that fluff.
Okay.
I'm going to open this up.
And my needle is still attached to.
Yes, your needle is definitely still attached.
Yeah.
Open it up. Put the cotton ball in there. Take your popsicle stick and ram that cotton up to the very top.
Okay. I like this. This popsicle stick is doing double duty.
Yes, so keep working it up with the popsicle stick. I also, when I don't have a popsicle stick, I use the back end of a pencil. Do not use the sharp end of a pencil or you'll just stab right through your felt.
Mm-hmm. But something like a pencil,
Yes.
a knitting needle, maybe.
The back end of a knitting needle, yep.
Great. Okay, cool. So nice when you don't have to have specific tools to do something like this.
Exactly. So
Okay.
I pushed mine to the top. So now I just have one arm that's a little bit puffier than the other.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I'm going to grab this and I'm going to shove it into this one now.
This one? Okay.
Yep.
Same process, different arm. All right, so I just finished the last little arm of my leaf, and now we're gonna finish filling it, right?
Perfect. I forgot to stuff one of my arms. So as you can see, I'm going back and going ahead and stuffing that empty arm.
Okay.
And now
I
we
don't
should
think
each have
Avi's
one
stuffing
arm.
anything today.
We should have one arm that's left unstuffed and then one in the middle of the leaf should also be kind of saggy. Just
Okay.
like this. So we left about an inch between our stitches
Right.
from our beginning stitch to our last stitch. Go ahead and stuff that other arm, and then in the final step, stuff the very middle by just adding another bit of batting and pushing it through to the middle.
Okay.
And if you find some of these arms are a little bit skinnier and harder to stuff, you can always just use less stuffing and do it in stages or just leave it a little bit flatter. You're going to notice the stuffing's a little bit more difficult now that we have less room to work with.
Mm-hmm.
my leaf is going to have a few chunky arms and a few slightly flatter arms, which is fine because leaves come in all different shapes and sizes.
That is true.
That's great because I'm just going to stuff the middle of mine.
All right, so I have all of my batting in.
Perfect. Do you
I
have a chunky
finish
little
off the
leaf?
edge? I do. I have a fluffy little
Yay.
guy.
All right, I have the batting in mine too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a blanket stitch all the way until this other edge. So I'm actually only going to do about 1 or 2 more stitches.
Yeah, I
I'll
think
probably
I can
do
probably
2.
do 2 as well.
And now we're almost right at the beginning. We have 1 on this side and 1 on this side.
Mm-hmm.
You can either finish it up by doing a knot right on this side, or what I'm going to do is what we call a running stitch. So I'm just going to go stab through both of the felt pieces and whatever batting might be kind of stuck in there a little bit. I'm going to go in, I'm going to go out. That's a running stitch right there. And to make it look a little bit cleaner, because I have that running stitch in there, I'm going to separate my stem pieces and I'm going to go in one more time, but this time only go through one of the edges or one of the leaf pieces. So as you can see, my string's kind of coming out between both of the stems.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a knot right inside between the stems.
Okay.
If you don't want to finish your leaf off with a running stitch, don't worry. We are going to put a little bow on the stem, and that bow should also make sure that the batting doesn't come out of your leaf.
Okay. And I didn't
And you
have
can
quite
go
enough
ahead and
to do that, so I'm just gonna do. I just did a knot on the back of mine. And I'll
perfect.
finish. Oh.
And now we're going to clip it.
Yeah.
And you should have a leaf with blanket stitches going all the way around the edges. And our final step, yours is so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Our final step is we're going to take a piece of brown yarn. We're going to tie it around the stem. And this is the part that if you didn't do that last running stitch, which is totally optional, this is going to make sure that your batting does not come out of your leaf. But usually batting doesn't fall out that easily from felt. It would fall out easily if you were using a smoother fabric, like a brocade.
Right.
And that's our final product. How you doing, Laura?
Well, you can
did
tell
it!
I
That's
rushed it
amazing.
a little on the end, and it's not very stuffy, but I did get to my stem. So now I can tie my bow on and I'll be all set.
Awesome.
Perfect. Yay.
Yay, looks great, everybody.
Yay. Thank you so
we
much.
did. You're welcome. So we did our
Thanks,
blanket
Miss
stitch, and
Denise.
like I said, you can also do a running stitch. With our team craft, we learned the whip stitch or over stitch, it's called sometimes. And our children's craft was a simple lacing project. I can't wait to see everybody's leaves and pumpkins when they bring in one for us to hang up as well.
Yes, please bring back your wonderful creations. We are so excited to see them.
Yeah. All right, and we hope you have fun.
Yes.
All right, happy crafting, everybody.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.